All right, welcome to the Daily Fantasy Flex Podcast, the NBA edition. It is February 6th. We are recording this on a Monday. We just witnessed, I guess depending on which side you were on, a very exciting Super Bowl. So we'll touch on that. And we're going to go over this Monday slate of games. Pretty big slate. It was a small one yesterday, going to be a small 3-game slate tomorrow, Tuesday. So we have 11 games today. And some really good games. If you just sort of look at the Vegas spreads, there's no game that has a double-digit spread. So a lot of close games and intriguing plays that we'll go over. We'll go over our structure as usual. We'll touch on a couple games, do injuries, and then go through positions. But first, let me introduce my co-host, as usual, Justin Phan and Jay Persson. Jay, how are you?
Good, man. Just coming off a really nice sports weekend for us sports fans. I think the highlight, Super Bowl was solid, don't get me wrong, but the highlight was that Oak Hill Chino Hills battle, and Oak Hill handed them their first loss. D'Angelo Ball got the L, so great game. And then we had a pretty intense golf final yesterday that I didn't watch a single minute of the tournament, but I heard it was really good. So
right,
and then the Super Bowl to cap it off. So yeah, that was pretty awesome, and it's now you got some good NBA action. So it's really good time right now.
Yeah, this weekend, this past year with championship games, been an exciting year. Justin, what's going on, dude?
Yeah, I had some jelly beans on the Pats. Just kind of ashamed to admit that I turned off the game for a little while and missed some of the comeback, and turned it back on and saw, nice little bump in the wallet. So yeah, definitely a good game, and excited to get some more jelly beans All-Star weekend coming up here.
For sure, yeah, we'll definitely have to talk about that a little bit more. So let's get into the slate again. It's 11-game slate. I'll kick it to Jay in just a minute for injuries, and there's definitely some notable ones that really have affected the value so far. And then we're going to go over 2 games as we usually do. The games we're going to touch on is Cavs and the Wizards. This is projected to be a close one in Washington. It's only a 1-point spread. And then Knicks-Lakers, probably not a super intriguing matchup from a real-life basketball perspective, but it does have the highest total of the day. So intriguing from a DFS one. So, Jay, would you mind running through injuries for us?
Yeah, for sure. I'll start off with Julius Randle. Will be starting tonight. His condition will be monitored, pneumonia, so we'll kind of see how many minutes it appears like he'll be playing. Derrick Rose is probable after missing the last few games with a sprained left ankle. Joakim Noah has been ruled out with a hamstring injury. Kyrie Irving will play tonight after being a late scratch last game. Rodney Stuckey is a game-time decision. Miles Turner missed shoot-around today. He's questionable with an illness. DeMar DeRozan and Patrick Patterson, since they played yesterday, there's no shoot-around today, so nothing official yet, but we'll lean on the side of doubtful for now. Rodney Hood is still sidelined with a knee contusion. Thabo Sefolosha just got ruled out again with a hand injury. Joel Embiid continues to be out. Robert Covington, probable to make his return after missing a few games with a hand contusion. Joel Okafor is starting tonight. Nerlens off the bench. Darren Williams doubtful again with that toe injury. Andrew Bogut still out. Gallo out still. Moutier is questionable with back pain. And then the big one, Jimmy Butler, game time decision with a right heel contusion.
Awesome. Okay, let's dive right into our games. Let's start with this Knicks-Lakers one. This one does have the highest total, as I mentioned, of the day at 222.5 currently. Opened at 220, so it's come up a little bit. Really bad defenses to bottom 10 defenses, and they do play at fairly quick paces. So we're projecting a lot of points here. I think this game is particularly interesting, and Justin, I'll kick to you, and we can sort of run through it, because I think that you could argue that there's maybe 4 or 5 guys that are cash playable. So let's start with the Knicks and, particularly the big men rotation. Joakim Noah is going to be out. So what are your thoughts on Hernan Gomez and O'Quinn down low against the Lakers?
Yeah, I think people are going to kind of freak out when the Knicks lineup is announced and O'Quinn's going to start at center. People are going to just be like, oh, should I get on O'Quinn instead of Hernan Gomez? I thought Hernan Gomez would start, but, it's more than likely that O'Quinn will draw the start at center. Hornacek has said that he likes Hernan Gomez in that second unit playing with Brandon Jennings. I still project Hernan Gomez to get the line share, and then it's at center. O'Quinn averages 5.1 fouls per 36. So I'd be surprised if he gets much more than 20 minutes here. Hernan Gomez has, immense potential like he's shown in these spots before. I can see him easily going 28, 30 minutes in this one. And, looking at his per 36 is 15 points, 13 and a half rebounds, 1.2 steals, 2.4 assists. Like, this guy can really fill it up, and he's facing a Lakers front court that's allowed the third highest opponent +/- centers this season. So I think Hernan Gomez across both sides is really one of the top value plays overall. 5,300 on FanDuel and 5,200 on DK. I have no problem locking him in firmly. I think he's one of the safest players. And, you kind of look at the main problem with the Knicks front court has just been the minute stability. And I feel really good about his minutes in the spot. He's played so well that Hornacek has been it's been undeniable that Hornacek has had his hand forced and said that he wants to see Billy see more minutes in that front court. So like him a lot. I think he's the top overall play from this game by a pretty big margin. And you kind of look at, some other options here. I think we need to focus on the Knicks side. Let's get into Kristaps. We can get into Kristaps Porzingis, and Carmelo Anthony and Kyle Quinn. Let's break down those guys and kind of what we kind of think of each one. I think Porzingis is probably the most interesting guy, especially on FanDuel. Definitely in the cash game mix at 6,600. So what do you guys think about him? He's kind of seen his minutes ramp up a little bit. Could see 30 plus in this one. What do we think about him?
Yeah, Jay, what are your thoughts on Knicks guys?
Yeah, I mean, Hernan Gomez, obviously the chalk. I think Porzingis definitely a strong cash play on FanDuel. He went off for 62.5 DK points against the Lakers in their only other matchup this season. So you have that to go off of as well. And then just the matchup overall with the Lakers front court and their defense being 29th in D rating this season. So I think Porzingis is really strong. I don't mind pairing him and Hernan Gomez. And then I think you get into more tournament plays with the rest of these guys. I still am intrigued just because of how bad the Lakers defense is. And this game in general is a nice game to target. So I still like my Melo shares, my Derrick Rose shares in tournaments. And I think there is some intrigue with Kyle O'Quinn, just kind of knowing. I mean, I get what you're saying with that. With him starting, I think that's perfect for everybody who knows Hernan Gomez is still the play. So I think that will drive ownership disparity to kind of what I want to see instead of having Hernan Gomez start and carry all the ownership. So it's kind of going to play out perfect. But I think you can have some small Kyle O'Quinn tournament exposure. He doesn't really have as much upside, I don't think, as Hernan Gomez, but in the chance that, Hernan Gomez just busts, then you kind of get on the other side there. But I'll have limited exposure to him, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Lakers have been one of the worst teams in the league against centers, really against a lot of, positions. So O'Quinn at only, he's like 4K on both sides. I would say he definitely has like 30 FanDuel potential. So at a low ownership, he would be interesting, even though if he's announced starting, his ownership might go up a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's what I'd be off of him. I just think he's going to be pretty fairly owned when he's announced a starter.
Just go all in on Hernan Gomez. Tournaments, cash,
Like I said,
nice.
I have trouble seeing O'Quinn seeing a lot of minutes just because of his foul trouble. And you kind of look at him as a starter; he's averaged just about 20 minutes per game, and that's for a reason. He definitely has the potential to pick up like 2 fouls in a couple of minutes and get glued to the bench pretty early.
Yeah,
definitely.
Carmelo in the last couple of years has played really well against the Lakers. I mean, it's not saying a lot. Lakers are bad, but definitely a lot of upside there. And Rose, I do think has a lot of upside against Knicks team that has really struggled. Of note, he is a much better bargain on DraftKings than FanDuel, where he's priced up a little bit. On the Lakers side, I think that a guy you can really strongly look at is D'Angelo Russell, who's only 6'5" on FanDuel. He has a 95% bargain rating there. Jay, are you fine with him in cash?
Yeah, I still am. I guess there's a little hesitance with Randall starting and more than likely seeing a solid amount of minutes. So that's there, but 6,500 is just too cheap. The spot's good. We mentioned this game is already good. So 6,500 for me is still in that cash realm. Probably a guy I'm going to try to target. DK, he got priced up to 7K. I think he's still fine there, but I'm going to look to go him on FanDuel And then, you get into your boy, you talked about a bit with Lou Williams, tournament exposure. But outside of that, there's with Randall kind of in the mix, that front court's just not that appealing to me, any of those individual players, to where I want to target any of them. They do have a nice implied team total. So, you want a piece of this team, I think, and that kind of comes down to D'Angelo taking a lot of shots lately, and he's contributing really well in rebounds and assists as well. So steals and blocks too. So kind of across the board, you have a point guard who's underpriced, just getting it done in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, so with Randall starting, and I think he's probably going to play, I think I have him like 24, 25, 26 minutes, kind of in that range, I think is reasonable. I like Larry Nance quite a bit, like on FanDuel at 4,100. I think he was one of my top value plays coming in before I knew that Randall was going to start and probably see a significant bump in minutes. I still think some Nance exposure in tournaments is fine. Back to Russell, he has the biggest plus minus negative differential with Randall on the court of any Laker this season. So that's definitely a little bit concerning to me. I don't think he's a cash game play today because there's some very obvious options at point guard. Yogi Ferrell, John Wall, Drew Holiday. We'll get into those guys. There's no way I play D'Angelo over any of those guys in cash. So D'Angelo's more of a tournament play for me. Again, beyond that, Lou Will. I don't think Clarkson's going to see enough minutes. And then, don't want Brandon Ingram. It gets really thin. You can get a little deeper.
Yeah, I mean, when we call guys a cash game play, it's sort of like, what does that mean? Does that mean that they're our two favorite point guards on FanDuel? Because I would say D'Angelo is probably a top 5 option. I
think he definitely is. I think,
but I do prefer Ferrell and Wall over him. So like, if that makes him not, I probably won't play him in cash, but
right. Like I prefer probably like Ferrell, Wall, Kyle Lowry, Russell Westbrook, and Drew Holiday. Like I rank those guys above D'Angelo.
But I mean, we got some other. I don't know. Yeah, it's not as easy as fitting like Russ or Wall or whatever. And D'Angelo at his price is just crazy good value, is what it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, the way I do it is like you want to shrink your player pool and just go position for cash lineup. You just narrow down each position to like 4 or 5 guys, hopefully, ideally, and then you pick from there. And D'Angelo's in that mix for me at least. If he's not like my top op, I'm not like locking him in my cash lineup, but I think he's in the mix, and you kind of see where the chips fall with the other positions. Going back to the Knicks real quick, is there any concern? I guess I mean, Hernan Gomez got priced up, and I guess this is more talking tournaments because I think we're all settled on him in cash. But if Hornacek likes Jennings and Hernan Gomez paired together so much with Rose coming back, is that any worry to you that he might take a hit in minutes or be limited if he just kind of plays with Jennings?
I think that's more an indication on Jennings getting his game right and getting him going than Hernan Gomez. I think, it's just the designation to me. I don't like I said, I don't see O'Quinn playing a ton of minutes in this one. Though Mozgov doesn't draw a lot of fouls traditionally. I think he's at like 3.1 drawn fouls per 36. I still don't think Hernan Gomez is at really any risk of minutes downside. Just the way he's been playing, like he's been demanding minutes. The production lately has just been obscene. Like he's been putting like 30, 40. FanDuel points up in like 20 something minutes. It's crazy.
40 in his last 3 games average. What about any like Jennings tournament exposure? I mean, he's been smashing. We have Rose probable. I mean, do you still Jennings? The downside is he kind of got priced up after these good games, so it's not as intriguing. But I mean, he's been crushing, and getting a piece of this game might have low ownership. I don't mind
if Rose is out or even with.
No, with Rose. Jennings has had still paid off his price with Rose.
I mean, against the Lakers, like if he's going to have like almost no ownership, like
maybe a little, but I think that's kind of it for me in this game.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, let's move on to our next game, which is going to be the Cavaliers in Washington visiting the Wizards. Jay, I think you had mentioned off the pod that Wizards have won 17 straight at home. Is that right?
I believe so. And they're crushing, and for DFS, they're crushing too. Like Gortat's back, we mentioned. This matchup's a bit different, but you look at this game; it's really, really close spread. I like this game a lot. I don't know how many plays I like from it. I mean, obviously Wall at home we have who averages I think 51 DK points at home this season is strong play on both sides for me. And then outside of that, I mean, just chock full of tournament plays really.
Yeah. So some quick data, and then Justin, I'll kick it to you for your thoughts on this game. The Cavaliers have moved up to being the second worst team versus point guards on the year, but if you just look at January and February, they're easily the worst team in the league. Everyone, like the second place team, is has like a +5 plus minus on FanDuel, and Cavaliers are almost at like +10 average, which is just ridiculous. So they're like twice as bad as any other team.
Then the Nuggets?
Then the Nuggets, yeah.
At point guard. Wow.
Yeah, twice as bad as any other team in the last month and a half. So take that for what it's worth. And then also some context on LeBron. He's only been a underdog, which the Cavaliers are 1-point dogs right now. So they've been an underdog 20 times over the last 3 years, which is only 9% of his games. He has done really good. He's averaged like a +6 FanDuel plus minus over those games. So definitely a spot that I think that LeBron and Wall are really, really strong plays. Justin, I assume you like both of them, and sort of just among the studs, where do they rank?
Yeah, LeBron's probably my top small forward today. I think the minute security there is so solid. And you look at 4 games that he's played against the Wizards the last 2 seasons, averaged 53.6 DK points with 100% consistency. So I think that floor is ultra consistent. And John Wall, like I mentioned, you can talk me into Yogi Ferrell, obviously at his price in that matchup, but Wall's right there with me, right there at the top with him. I think those two are pretty clearly the top 2 point guard plays of the day. Obviously with Kyrie at home, it just doesn't get much better than this. So I like this spot a lot for Wall. And I think those two are kind of the only 2 guys I'm looking at from this game as kind of cash game options. The rest are kind of tournament plays. Let's talk about Markieff. I think that's kind of the next guy I'm looking at. Markieff on DK at 6,500 against Kevin Love. This is just a matchup here between both teams where they are very generous to opposing power forwards. So let's talk about this matchup here: Kevin Love versus Markieff Morris. Where do we stand on both those guys?
I like Kevin Love more for tournaments. I don't want to play Markieff in cash on DK, but you kind of look. We'll get into the position by position breakdown. And he definitely jumps out at that price point, and just kind of lack of other options that are really standing out. But that said, I still want to avoid it. I'm more on the Love side, kind of him for tournaments, but neither really targeting in cash. I think Love had 37.5 DK points in this matchup last year. But the thing that worries me about kind of the Cavs guys is Washington's D has just gotten significantly better, especially since they last played. They're 3rd in defensive rating in the league over their last 10 games. So I don't really want too much exposure to these Cavs guys in cash outside of LeBron, if you can afford him, who went off for 55 DK points against him last year. But Markieff for me is a tournament play, and then I'll kind of see on DK if I have to go him at power forward.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do. I think I prefer Love just a little bit more. I mean, he's obviously been dealing with these back spasms throughout the year, but when he's actually got playing time, he's been really good. I mean, he put up 23-16 last game. It was against the Knicks, but I mean, he does have upside. Washington has been a bottom team in defensive rebound rate this year, so he does have some upside on the offensive glass against Keith and Gortat. So I think both of these are tournament plays, but I think they're pretty intriguing ones for sure. Any Beal interest for you, Justin?
Yeah, I think he's in the mix just because he's going to play a lot of minutes. I think. What is he? 6,800 on DK and let me see, 6-7K on FanDuel. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to actually end up playing him, especially on FanDuel when you got guys like Seth Curry and Norm Powell, especially if DeRozan's out, kind of up there as my top options, but definitely in the mix, as well. Do we have a preference on like Beal versus like Devin Booker?
I mean, give me Booker probably. For cash, I think I'll lean Booker too. But Beal, I mean, this Wizards team at home is ridiculous. And Beal has a +5, plus minus at home. And then you have Gortat, who's been on fire. He has a +4, plus minus at home. Like, all these guys are doing really well at home. So I'm definitely intrigued in a close spread where minutes should be no concern like usual with these starters. So I like Beal for tournaments for sure, definitely as a pivot. I think Booker will have higher ownership too, if that's another factor.
Yeah, I mean, the Cavs have allowed the worst efficiency to opposing shooting guards this season. I mean, and obviously you got Beal at home. Really good spot.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, and looking at ownership between a lot of these guys, like Beal and Booker, I think are interesting. And even like going back to the Love-Markieff dynamic, Love is projected for a lot lower ownership than Markieff. I mean, he's 400 more on FanDuel, but he's projected for quite a bit lower ownership. And you could argue he has a higher ceiling than he does. So I think if you're sort of choosing between guys that are close, looking at ownership in our models is a pretty good way to differentiate.
Yeah, I think Love's biggest thing too has been minutes. That's kind of the difference between Love and Markieff. I think Markieff has been playing big minutes consistently. He's been playing 34 to 36 minutes for weeks now, right? And Love's minutes have been yo-yoed up and down. He'll play 26, 27 minutes in games where it gets out of hand. But when he gets up there, when he's playing 33, 34, 35 minutes in these close games, which I can see him getting up to today, then he gives you that nice upside that, makes him kind of my preferred option out of the two in tournaments.
That's fair. And then Kyrie, I think we can agree is, tournament only, but, largely fading against Wall, Wall has 8 steals over his last 2 games. He's been like a lockdown guy.
He's been good.
And then Gortat, we're getting to like Gortat, Porter, Tristan Thompson range Gortat, like you've said, Jay, has been pretty good, but what are you doing with those fringe guys? Just low.
Gortat struggled big time in the spot. 29.8 DK points with 20% consistency in their last couple of meetings. So I don't know. I'm probably not going to go to it today, even though he's been a lot better as of late.
Yeah, I'll reevaluate him when we talk about centers, but there are some guys. There's a
lot of centers.
Yeah, like you have cheap guys and you have really expensive guys in nice spots, and Gortat just kind of falls in the middle for me. I don't know. He's been crushed on his back, man. He was our guy for a while there.
Yeah.
Underpriced on DK every single night, low ownership, always hit value. Yeah. He's looking good lately. All these Wizards guys are. I don't know. I still will have some in tournaments, I think, for sure.
Awesome. All right, let's get into our positions. We'll run through here. Start with point guard and move through center. Point guard, like we've mentioned, pretty intriguing today. We've talked about Wall, we've talked about D'Angelo Russell, and there's quite a few guys as well. I think, especially on FanDuel, he's still 5,600, assuming Darren is not playing. He goes against Denver, who is still, over the whole season sample, is the worst team against point guards. You got to go Yogi and Cash, right, Jay?
Yeah, I think so. I'm still waiting for him to, bottom out or not make every 3 he takes. But, yeah, Denver has made Tony Parker twice look like Kyrie offensively. It's just it's too much. I don't want to fade people against the Nuggets, point guards against the Nuggets anyways. Now you have Yogi, who's just on fire. Good price point for sure. So, yeah, I think you still kind of stick with him. I'm probably less hesitant than most people to just, pencil him in. But
Sure.
Yeah, he's still there.
Yeah, I know he's good. Justin, we're sort of in this lower range. If there's guys who want to pivot below Wall, who I think we agree is pretty easy cash guy if you can get to him. But right below him, there's Kyle Lowry at 9K and then Drew Holiday at 8K. I'm sort of on the Drew train, but do you have a preference of those two?
Yeah, I'll go with Drew. I don't like Lowry here as much in second leg of back-to-back. Even with DeRozan now, I think Lowry's still nice, but Drew Holiday, the issue with him for a while there has been minutes, and he's been seeing around 35 consistently for a couple of games here, and I feel really good about his minutes projection in this plus matchup against the Suns here, who have an opponent plus minus of plus 2.9. So I think Drew's right up there. Drew, Anthony Davis, I want a lot of in this spot against the Suns.
Yeah, I'll definitely take Drew. I think in tournaments I might just completely be off Lowry and fade him 100%. I'm worried about his minutes lately. This is their 5th game in the last 7 nights. So with or without DeRozan, I don't like the minutes that he's been playing. He's been playing huge minutes and just kind of his team. I know they have a high implied team total still, but for tournaments, I think I'll definitely be maybe just entirely fade Lowry. And I like Drew, but we mentioned Washington's D has just been like really, really good. I don't know. I think for 8K on FanDuel though, pretty nice.
Yeah, I hear you.
Wait, Drew's playing.
Or not? Yeah,
Phoenix,
not Washington. Yeah, not Washington's D. Yeah,
Phoenix,
yeah. That's right.
Phoenix,
And both those games have been, I think, this season decided by 1 point and high scoring. So really nice. And I mean, we can get into the other side too. I like Bledsoe just as much as the tournament play. Very inconsistent, but his ceiling is up there with a lot of these other guys.
And probably should be pretty low owned tonight, just like his relative price point compared to a lot of these guys. If you're sort of looking at Drew and Lowry without DeRozan, obviously they're going to be pretty highly owned. All right, let's. I think a tricky one here is going to be this Miami backcourt. Jay, I'll kick to you to start. Dragic versus Tyler Johnson. We talked about off the pod. Like, what do you do with both of those guys?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't want either cash. I don't think. And then I'm more intrigued by Dragic, I guess. But yeah, the minutes are just really tough. So I think, you're fine going tournament exposure with either. Spread them out a little bit. Obviously, make sure they're not on the same team in any of your lineups.
Right.
You definitely don't want that. But, yeah, it's tough. It's tough to figure out.
Yeah. A pretty solid matchup against a Minnesota team who's still, in their young days, not great defensively. So some upside there. The point guard on the other side, Rubio, is at home tonight, which we've talked about his home splits. Justin, do you have any opinion on, the Dragic Tyler Johnson dilemma?
I'm probably going to stay away from it for now and just kind of you can take some shots in tournaments. I'd probably go Tyler Johnson just because he's cheaper. He's kind of shown real nice upside over the last 2 games. He's playing really well. But yeah, I think definitely some other options here to parse. What do you think about Jeff Teague, at home against OKC? That could be definitely interesting. You got Mike Conley, and a matchup that people will stay away from with the Spurs. Obviously, can exploit that matchup with Tony Parker. Any thoughts on those 2 guys? That's kind of like the next group of guys that we haven't discussed yet.
Yeah, I think Teague is fairly interesting. Just we've talked for in a lot of pods, Indy's home away splits. Just as a team, they're a lot better at home. So Teague, we've talked that there's sort of upside going against Westbrook just because of his defense. So I do think there's some upside there. Do you have any thoughts? And then talk about Raymond Felton, Jay.
That's the last guy I want to talk about. I'll talk about Teague, though. I like Teague quite a bit. I think my tournament exposure to him will increase or decrease kind of based on Stuckey news, who's a game-time decision. So if he's out, then, I like Teague a bit more on that spot and as price point. Felton, profiles as a cash game play with kind of how he's done for his price. Yep. So he's pretty nice. I don't see the need to go him on this slate. Is kind of the way it's looking.
90% consistency over his last 10 games. He's been
really nice.
Yeah.
Same.
But an 11-game slate, I think, is our point that you don't need to go him.
Yogi's 900 more on FanDuel. There's literally no reason to go Yogi.
What about George Hill, who's really, really cheap on FanDuel, 5,800? I have no doubt he'll kind of exceed value, but is that upside that he flashed kind of earlier season still there?
I don't know, man. He's gone 30 plus once over the past month, once or twice over the past month. It's tough with him. He gets in these spots where his rates. I kind of always tend to overproject him because his rates look good, but he just I don't know. It's one thing kind of falls off. He just hasn't been able to put together a complete game. But yeah, this is a good matchup against Schroeder. But I think they're just better tournament plays with more. Pronounced upside.
And speaking of Schroeder, Jay, I think you and I had talked about this, messaging each other how bad Utah was over the last month. 1.5 against point guards. I think we agreed like 3 weeks ago that it was just random noise. But at this point, like players are playing really well against Utah, against point guards. So it may not matter because Schroeder's probably not very good at basketball. But, I mean, he's had big games, and, like, if he's going to have 1% ownership in this league.
Yeah, he has had big games. It's still just a minutes thing for me. His minutes are consistently under 30, and just the Jazz in general defensively. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying with the ownership. It's intriguing, but I'd look for more guys. If you're going like strictly low ownership, like Conley's a guy I would try to target if you're kind of focusing on low ownership point guards.
Very fair. All right, let's move on to shooting guard here. I think we've been targeting this sort of middle range of guys who, if they've, the sites have just been sort of slow to price them up. Seth Curry being, I think, the guy that we can start with, but also, Norman Powell without DeRozan, his price is still low at 48. And then, the Clippers guys have continually been cheap. So, Justin, these mid-tier guys that we sort of go every night in cash, same thing here tonight.
Yeah, I don't think you have to get too cute here. I think it's pretty clear. DeRozan's listed officially as questionable, but he's been listed questionable for a couple of games that hasn't played. Second leg of the back-to-back here, and I haven't really heard much in terms of market progress that makes me believe he'll play today. So I'd probably mark him and Patrick Patterson as close to doubtful as of now. So Seth Curry and Norman Powell, like I mentioned, like those guys a lot. We mentioned Devin Booker, mentioned Bradley Beal. I think, you can have some, Tim Hardaway Jr. shares in tournaments. I think people are going to get a little carried away here. I don't think you have to get too cute and chase those points, though. He's been really good without Thabo Sefolosha, a tougher matchup here against Utah, so more of a tournament play. Then, beyond that, I like Andrew Wiggins is still a really nice play on DK, shooting guard, small forward eligible. We'll get to him a little bit. Obviously gets a nice usage bump there without Zach LaVine. And then, any other interest in some other guys here? We got Dwayne Wade, who I think can be pretty sneaky, though, Jimmy Butler is a game time decision and might be back. Jamal Crawford's been great. Deion Waiters has been great. What do you think about those guys?
Yeah. They're all pretty nice. I like Wade quite a bit for tournaments if Butler's out. Sacramento 29th in defense efficiency against shooting guards this season. So
is that a trap though? Like I feel like I've done the query and when Butler's been out, Wade's actually been worse.
How many games? I know last game was definitely a bit disappointing, but the Kings.
The Kings, yeah, it's nice. Also, like this is such a sneaky spot for Wade because Butler's a game time decision, and this is the last game of the slate. It's at 10:30 because it's in Sacramento.
Yeah, that's another great point. The other great point is how many times have we seen Butler in a situation where either he's a game time decision or his minutes are going to be capped or so and so,
and then he goes
40. And then he goes for like 60. So it's like, I've ran into this too many times where it's like I'm getting Butler exposure, and then the latest game of the night. You're right. You got to take your chances. There's a pretty good chance we won't know, but if he's a true game time decision.
Yeah, tournaments. That's a nice call.
Yeah, circling back. Do you think in cash you just kind of play it safe and go one of these cheap guys, or you kind of limit your highest price guy at like Curry at $6K? Norm 48. Jamal, even like all these guys are really cheap, and it seems like this is a spot where you can save in cash games.
I'd be fine with Booker, but I don't think you have to.
I would love to go Booker. His volume's been absurd. His free throw rates climbing. He's contributing like just enough in assists and rebounds to kind of not kill you if he doesn't go absolutely off shooting. So
and he's going against Buddy Hield, who is I think he's like out of 100 eligible shooting guards, he's like the third worst defensive shooting guard in the league this year.
Sounds about right. Yeah, Booker's averaged 38 DK points in their two earlier matchups this season. So he's probably my favorite if I decide to spend up. What are your guys' thoughts on a guy like Oladipo? Not you, Bryan. You hate him too much, but 5,700. He's had a really difficult schedule lately. He's had a lot of difficult matchups, but 5,700 is pretty cheap. A better spot tonight. Is there any intrigue in him?
Is he still in the league?
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
feel the real need to go Oladipo today. I like Devin Booker. Going back to him, is like I think Pelicans are allowing the fifth most threes per game, or the fourth most threes per game. So he should be really, really nice. I don't think there's a real need to get cute with Oladipo. I think there's definitely a lot of options there at shooting guards, surprisingly, that are pretty cheap. And maybe a guy that I'll look at is Tyreek Evans at 4,900 on FanDuel. I think he's the guy that I probably would take a shot on in tournaments, especially given you look at last game, he played 27 minutes. And we kind of know what his usage is like. So if he can get anywhere near, 25 minutes today against the Suns, count me in on that. I'll want some tournament shares. I think he's kind of more of like a tournament play that I like over Oladipo because I like that reduced ownership and pretty nice ceiling.
If I knew the minutes were there, I would cash him. I think because his per minute production's insane. He has the second highest out of all shooting guards on DK, eligible shooting guards per minute, only behind Jimmy Butler. So Tyreek for tourneys at least definitely exposure, and like he's close, I think, in cash if you kind of break down the minutes. But
there's just too much volatility there. I mean, he's had these games before where he's played big minutes and come back down to earth the next game. So I legit have no idea what his minutes will be today. I can see it anywhere from like 18 to 27. And that wide volatility makes him more of a tournament play.
And another guy who he's sort of the opposite. He's the anti-Tyreek. His minutes are incredibly safe, but his production is literally all over the place. KCP, Justin. I mean, like, how do you even project a guy like KCP?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, he put up like 5 FanDuel points in like 32 minutes the other day against Indiana. I mean, it's pretty incredible how volatile he is from game to game. I've been kind of on the mantra of like pace up generally is his thing, but he played pace up, I believe, last game against Indiana, and obviously busted severely. I don't know. I don't have a real good read on KCP at this point. I think he's just extremely volatile, and it's kind of more of a dart throw tournament option at this point.
That's fair. One other guy that I do want to shout out, he took 10 3-pointers last game. And
talking about Lou Will?
No, I'm talking about Nick Young.
Okay.
So Nick Young. We didn't mention him in the game breakdown, but he took 10 3-pointers last game. And, like, who's to say he's not going to treat this game as his warm-up to the 3-point competition? You know?
At MSG? I mean, I like that,
Like, he could take 20 – he could take 23 pointers.
Yeah, Swaggy at MSG –
I mean, shooting guards against the Knicks too. I like that's a decent call. I like that.
Yeah. I guess I want to go back to Wiggins and just kind of highlight this is his first game, I believe, where he's shooting guard eligible on DK, which is pretty nice. We can talk about him, I guess, when we get small forward for FanDuel, but I don't. It's tough for me with Wiggins because the Heat defense has been really, really solid lately. But then you have Wiggins with these massive jumps and usage rate and plus minus with Levine now. So I don't know. We can get into him next.
For sure. Yeah, so let's move right into small forward. We've already talked about how much we like LeBron as sort of the top end. Carmelo, a pretty nice tournament play against LA. Let's go down to like the bargain bin, because if we want to get Wall, we want to get some of these high price guys, so we're gonna have to get some cheaper ones in our cash game lineup. So there's a lot of guys that I think that are going to be pretty popular. You have Terrence Ross without DeRozan, you have CJ Miles without Thad Young, who is out, and then you have the sort of the TJ Warren, PJ Tucker dilemma in Phoenix. You have Matt Barnes in Sacramento. Jay, like out of those like 4K guys, I mean, do you have a favorite of them for cash?
I mean, I like Barnes the way he's been contributing on FanDuel at 3,800, 3 games in a row with double-digit rebounds. His minutes have appeared safe. And then I might take a leap with TJ Warren too. 2 games against them earlier season when he was kind of on fire. He averaged 35.5 DK points. He's 28.6 FanDuel points in his last 2 games. There is volatility and kind of minutes concern with kind of him and Tucker of what to do with them. But I think on this slate and at 4,200 on FanDuel, 4,300 on DK, I'm kind of leaning towards Warren. Warren and Barnes, maybe my 2 kind of favorite value small forward options.
Yeah, Justin, out of those like 4 or 5 4K guys, is Barnes the top for you or someone
Yeah,
else?
Barnes is top for me. I think with these guys too, I think my median projection for like CJ Miles is probably higher than a lot of these guys, but he offers considerable downside. I don't see him having much upside either. And I think you have to take that into consideration when you kind of like parsing through the models and stuff, and just like looking at straight projection is kind of factoring in upside as well. And I think Matt Barnes and DJ Warren have shown considerable upside, more so than a T. Ross or a CJ Miles can offer. They'll give you more dimension in their game than just spot up shooting from three, right? And Barnes can do a lot more with the rebounds, the steals, the defense and Warren is an energy guy as well. So I like those guys too, preferably out of that group.
You're on mute.
Brian's on mute.
Yeah, we're all in agreement there. I think Barnes is the play, and I do think Warren probably has the highest upside of those guys. So definitely a good call. What stands out to me, like if you're just sort of looking at Slate dynamics and guys who potentially be low owned, since LeBron is such like in a good spot as an underdog, how well he's been playing lately, and with like legitimately 5 interesting guys at 4K, like guys like Jimmy Butler first, who's we've talked about as the play, but also guys like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and even Gordon Hayward down just a little bit lower, I think you're going to just have massively low ownership. Jay, like of those top guys, like who do you think has the highest ceiling? Obviously, fairly tough matchups like we've discussed.
It's Butler, man. Like this is so perfect for Butler. Game time decision, late game, like massive ceiling. Like you look at a guy like Melo, who I like in the spot, but he's not contributing in these secondary categories really at all. We've Rose back. It's kind of like I'm struggling to compare his upside perhaps to some of these other guys. But you broke it down really well with you have these clear-cut kind of value guys and then LeBron up top. And, like, you can throw Harrison Barnes in that mix, who's priced lower than Paul George and Melo with Darren out. First the Nuggets, 6,500 I like. Wilson Chandler just mix. We did get news that Kenneth Faried is questionable tonight. Difficult spot, but if Fareed's out as well, Wilson Chandler will play a lot at the 4. And his numbers are interesting. If you kind of look, he's like on the every other game plan. 10 points last game, 47, 14, 50, 10, 27, 9. It's like every other game, but you look at it and he's really struggled kind of in spots where you would anticipate him struggling. And this spot's not necessarily that great. But there's still intrigue, I think, if Fareed's out. So all these guys are kind of tournament options. A guy who's been playing well is Marcus Morris, but I think we're going to get Covington back, and that presents a difficult matchup. So I'm not going to be on him too much.
Yeah, that's fair. Justin, a guy that I like quite a bit is Gordon Hayward, even in the fairly tough matchup against Atlanta, just because of how well he's been playing. What are your thoughts on him as sort of a tournament pivot in that middle salary range?
Yeah, I think that's a good call, especially with Rodney Hood still out. I think that's nice. And one guy I think we haven't shouted out enough on DK is Kawhi Leonard in the spot against Memphis. Memphis has been kind of middle of the road in terms of defending small forwards over the last 10 games. And you kind of look at this Memphis team, who can they throw at Kawhi and can defend him on the wing? I mean, that's kind of like the spot to exploit him, man. I think the minutes will be really nice here in this game with just a 3-point spread. Kawhi should see kind of a full complement of minutes in this one. So I think I kind of like him. I don't think many people are going to be on him today. So I think he's probably one of my favorite under the radar guys who can give you kind of that elite ceiling.
Yeah, that's fair. And just touching quickly on any other guys before we move on, we've mentioned a lot of these guys like Terrence Ross. I think they're fine in like tournaments. But other than that, I mean, like Bob Covington, who crushed before he went, like obviously not a great matchup against slow-paced Detroit. But like if you're like really, it's pretty clear cut who you should go at small forward. So going a guy like Covington could also be really low owned as well.
Yeah, he did have some massive games before he went down. But yeah, the spot's just not there for me today. I don't want to really target Detroit in that spot.
That's fair. All right, let's move on to power forward, and we can't go anywhere else before the Brow Whisperer gives his thoughts on Anthony Davis.
Oh, man. I mean, this is kind of a prime time for Brow to head to the locker room. I already have the tweet typed up. He's got 4 games in a row now with massive minutes, looking healthy, averaging 54 FanDuel points in that same span. You got a matchup versus Phoenix, who's been horrible defensively at the power forward and center position all season. And they get their shots blocked, the third most out of any teams per game. So, like, Brow's in that really good spot. I think we have enough value on this slate that you can go him. I love him in this spot, but I'm pretty hesitant. This kind of shapes up to be a locker room trip for him. Everything's, like, going his way.
Yeah. Interestingly, Brow's center eligible only on DraftKings now. So, not power forward. But, just talking about power forward, we've already talked about Chris Stapps. Talk to me about Lavoy Allen, Justin. I think he's probably going to be the thing that everyone's discussing the most on the slate.
Yeah, I hate it. I hate it just because I'm going to roster him, and I don't think Lavoy Allen's good. You look at kind of the things you want in a fantasy player that you want to roster in DFS, and Lavoy Allen just the complete opposite. This guy has a 9.6% usage rate this season, 8.9 PR. 0.58 FanDuel points per minute. He's just awful. But he crushed last game. He's min-priced on FanDuel. He's what is he on DK? I can't even pull it up.
He's a center only on DK.
Yeah, so center only.
37. So he's in play there too.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna touch I don't think I'm gonna go Lavoy on DK. I'm probably gonna look at Anthony Davis and Hernan Gomez there. But Lavoy, I'm begrudgingly gonna roster him on FanDuel at power forward. He's min-priced there. I feel pretty good about his minutes because, like, Kevin Seraphin didn't get in all last game. They played Lavoy like 30 minutes, 30 plus minutes in this one. So 32 minutes. I don't know. I even at like half a FanDuel point per game.
Oh man,
it's brutal. like Kyle O'Quinn or Lavoy on DKJ. If you had to pick one of them,
for cash or
just for your life.
I think Lavoy is an easy fade in tournaments. I will say though, a lot of this for me in cash, I really don't want to go Lavoy in cash, even on FanDuel. I don't want to. I think Miles Turner, if he's out, they're just going to be more thin. I'll feel better about Lavoy at least if Turner's out, to where I will have no second thoughts about cashing him at mid-price on FanDuel. I agree. I think you can fade him at 3,700 on DK just with him only being center eligible. I don't like him at all. What's there to like, really? It sucks, but
no, you're just chasing points. You're seeing you put up 39.7 against the Pistons last game, and you're like, wow, like this guy should be an auto play, but he's not good.
Yeah, I think it's good. An easy tournament fade. Like, if the other thing with FanDuel too is you have a guy who's min-price who's going to carry a lot of ownership. Like, that leads to so many similar roster configurations. Not like the same lineups, but just people are going to come to the same conclusions. If you go Lavoy Allen, you can pay up for Brow. Like, it's too similar, so it's a fade for me.
The fact that we're even bringing up O'Quinn versus Lavoy Allen, and like O'Quinn's minute projection is around 20 and Lavoy's around 30, and when they're identically priced, that we think it's close, and I think I might even lean O'Quinn. It tells you a lot about Lavoy Allen. Like, I think I'm probably gonna go him on FanDuel cash, but I don't want to. That's kind of my stance.
Yeah, like you might have to, but like no one wants to. That's the thing.
I think my projection right now for him is ultra conservative. I think I have him at like 20 FanDuel points right now, and that's like 7 points above implied expectation already.
Yeah.
That's elite right there. With the conservative projection. So I don't know. I can see the downside here too, but it's just like the price is too good, really. And even though the player isn't.
Yeah. That's very fair. So touching on some other guys, it's very similar to small forward. There's a sort of an interesting pricing dynamics. We have Brow at the top. We have Porzingis right in the middle, and Lavoie and below, and sort of in the middle as well as Kevin Love and Markieff we discussed in that game, which makes Blake Griffin sort of as a pivot down from Brow. Like he's got to be really intriguing in tournaments. What are your thoughts there, Jay?
Yeah, definitely. The way you break down his position with kind of the guys that are going to carry higher ownership, and Blake kind of falls back. He was pretty high owned. I think last game he was near 50% in cash games, but he's up to 8,800 now on DK. I still like him quite a bit for tournaments, facing Toronto, who fifth game in 7 nights. So I like the spot for sure, and just kind of the projected ownership, kind of not going the cheap guy and not going Brow. So I like that. I think Porzingis on FanDuel is kind of in that high up in that cash game mix to me. Like, for example, if I do fade Lavoie, I might be looking at something like Porzingis and maybe Brow or something, and you save elsewhere. There are kind of plenty of guys to save at on this slate, and on FanDuel where you have looser salary overall, I think that's definitely doable. On DK, I mean, we mentioned all those small forward value guys like Matt Barnes is power forward eligible there, so he's an option for power forward. Markieff, who's 65. So I don't know. I think like Boogie makes a lot of sense for me on DK. Whether it's power forward or forward position, I think that won't really matter with you going multiple value forwards, whether it's small or power. So Boogie's in play for me there in cash, where he crushed this matchup last game really, really hard.
Yeah. Definitely fair. And then, there's some guys that I think are fairly interesting right below like the Kristaps range. You can look at like Taj against Sacramento, obviously a tough matchup against, potentially Bogey, but Sacramento's not good defensively. And then Ilyasova, I think, is interesting. Justin, what are your thoughts on those guys?
Yeah, Ilyasova's your boy. I mean, he's been really good. I mean, literally in our NBA trial, like we got to bump Ilyasova. I mean, he's been really good. Like the usage bump without Jaw, but Covington is on the way back. He's trending back, so that's like another kind of big usage guy that is an upgrade over who the guys they've been trying out there. So that's kind of relegates him to tournament only status for me. Taj is interesting. I don't think he quite has that upside. I kind of like that he'll probably see another minute or so with Cristiano Felicio out at least a week. I think there's a couple more minutes in that front court available for him and Robin Lopez. I don't think Bobby Portis is going to play a ton. So that makes him a little bit interesting to me. Terrence Jones, I think, is kind of interesting, especially if they start him again in this matchup. He's probably going to get some Marquise Chris with Brow at center. So I think that's a interesting call. Beyond that, it gets kind of thin. Any other guys that we're kind of looking over here?
I mean, we haven't even discussed Jokic and Millsap.
No, I'm gonna say Jokic until center. I want to highlight him. I have a hard stance on Jokic today.
Okay. All right, Jay, do you want to talk about Millsap, Aldridge, any of those guys that we haven't hit on?
Not really. I mean, I talk about the guys I'm interested in. So, tournament exposure if you want, but I'm kind of going to keep my power forward core pretty tight here with that top range guys. Boogie on DK, Brow on FanDuel, and kind of play it like that in tournaments. And then we kind of mentioned the value cash options.
Fair enough. All right, so let's move right on to center. And Jay, I'll kick right back to you on this one. Because the two guys at the top, Boogie and Towns, you seem to be like Team Boogie, and I think I might be Team Cat.
Well, my Boogie example was for DK only, where he's power forward. Cat's power forward too, though. There isn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Cat averaged 53 DK points in 4 games without Levine. I've brought up many times how Miami's D is just crazy good lately. I still think Whiteside can be exploited. So I love Cat, and more than anything, I think it puts pressure on guys like Wiggins and Rubio to maybe struggle shooting in this one, to where it might be more of a Cat game, lean on Cat down low, slower pace game. I'm equally as high on Cat as Boogie. I like both a lot. So I think we went over the cash play at this position with Hernan Gomez, and then you look at expensive guys like Cat, Boogie, and then the next guy down, I think for me is Andre Drummond, who also has a lot of upside.
Yeah. Boogie or Cat, Justin?
I'll take Cat. I'm probably going to bump Cat up even more. I just like the spot against Whiteside and then the nice usage bump. He's at home too. In this spot, I think he's pretty safe, and I'll take the savings 800 less on DK as well. I'll take that and go Cat.
We need a little wager here. Team Cat versus Boogie.
Yeah, now we'll figure something out.
I'm on Boogie's got over 64 in 4 of his last 5, and he went for 42 and 14 against the Bulls.
Yeah, he's nice. That's
crazy.
Nice.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, I think
they're both really nice.
They're both really nice. Give us your Jokic stance, Justin.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, so I've looked around at kind of like the industry takes about Jokic today, and I think people are off him just because Dallas has a really good DVP versus centers, and just kind of like a lot of these sites kind of automate their factors, and their projection for their base projection for Jokic is bumped down or whatever. But I love Jokic today, and I think he's going to be pretty discounted just because I think all these sites and all the touts are just be off him. You look at 2 matchups he's played against the Mavericks this season, he's averaged 54.8 DK points, 26.6 points above salary-based expectations. So 2 games he's put up 50, he's put up 60 against the Mavs. And you kind of look at this spot now, no Bogut, Dirk's at center. Dirk's allowed a PER to opposing centers of like 20.6, I think, on the season. So you look at this team, who can even remotely guard Jokic? I don't think there's anybody on this team who can match.
Anyways.
I mean, yeah, I believe he's a matchup proof, and you look at this team, and there's no one up and down like Salah, Dwight Powell, Dirk. I'm just not afraid of anybody here, and I think relative to where I think the industry is on Jokic and where I'm seeing kind of him projected at, Jokic is extremely nice for me. I think, especially today, center is really loaded. Like we mentioned, obviously Anthony Davis on DK, Hernan Gomez, DeMarcus Cousins, Karl-Anthony Towns, all really good options. I'm not going to knock any of them, but like I like Jokic quite a bit too.
Yeah, Dallas is last in rebound rate on the year. They're grabbing only 46%.
The thing is, though, they've been really stingy overall against centers.
It's because of pace,
right? Because of pace, right?
But the big games that they've let up have been massive.
Yeah,
like overall against regular centers, they're pretty good because of the pace. But against like centers that can put up 20 rebounds, like Jokic. So what are your thoughts on Jokic, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, I think if Fareed's out, especially, that's one less body and a lot of usage that disappears too. It might hurt Jokic with his dimes because him and Fareed have played really well together. But like if you're talking ownership and comparing some of these other guys and comparing a ceiling that he's already proven against this defense, absolutely, he needs exposure.
He's legit matchup proof, man.
He's a beast.
I mean, like some of his best games, like his first game, like his coming out party was against San Antonio, and he's been really good in San Antonio, like a couple of spots they played, this season. So I think, I don't know, like his biggest thing too is like foul trouble. And you look at this spot against
fouls.
And you look at the spot against Dirk, he's allowed 3.1 fouls per 36 to opposing centers, and that's let me see if that ranks him below average on the slate relative to other centers. So it's not really a spot you'd be too concerned about him picking a foul. It's 14th out of 22 centers eligible players on the slate. Fouls allowed. So him.
He's nice. Yeah, 2 other centers I want to bring up. One, Steven Adams, I think is a nice tournament play, and then Tyson Chandler. I'm gonna go back to that as a tournament play. He averaged 39 DK points in 2 games against the Pelicans this season.
Very bad rebounding.
Dude, that's twice. That's twice you bring out Tyson Chandler.
It's got to hit once. Yeah, it's got to hit once.
Eventually it will. Justin. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah, I'm done.
Justin, I'm curious on this Jahlil Okafor, Andre Drummond matchup here.
Yeah. I think can we take odds on Jahlil? We'll make this one, make it alive on this one. I think I like Drummond a lot, like his tournament appeal, and we saw Hassan Whiteside just abuse his Sixers front court one game ago. I think he had I lost
30 and 20 in the third quarter, I think, right?
Yeah. I mean, Whiteside finished that game with 30 and 20 with 3 blocks. Yeah, 57. So yeah, the thing with Drummond, I think the drawback here for me, the only reason that why I don't have him higher right now is this 9-point spread, which I think this game has blow-up potential, and Detroit's been in kind of some lopsided games where Drummond doesn't quite see like the minutes that you kind of want out of him, where he'll see like 27, 28 minutes instead of like 31, 32. So I think there's some downside there in that respect, but overall this matchup is pretty nice.
Yeah, for sure. And then other guys we can shout out. I like Rudy Gobert, who is fringe in tournament play. He's probably going to be low owned because of his price point. Has a lot of upside, even against an Atlanta team here. And Jay, what are you doing with Whiteside?
Yeah, I mean, Whiteside smashed last game, did well the game before. I don't mind some tournament exposure for sure. And we've seen the mini front courts, Cat and Jang, have not been good defensively this season, but they do have good rebound rates. So I don't know. I think kind of depends how you think the field will be on Whiteside coming off that ridiculous game and then a strong game before that, trending in the right direction. I want to attack guys that, in tournaments are trending like downwards for no reason outside of maybe like foul trouble or things like that, where you're getting them at a discount compared to the field. And I don't think Whiteside really fits that today. But like we mentioned, these guys, we have so many guys that are so elite that Whiteside kind of falls back for me. So I don't know, maybe he will be pretty low owned. But I like these other guys. Like I like Drummond more in tournaments.
Gasol with complete faith for you, Justin, against the Spurs.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's fine because it's going to be a close game, so he should see a lot of minutes in this one. He definitely has like 35, 36, 37, 38 minute potential for sure. But just the spot isn't one like that's prime enough. It's all in context, right? Relative to the other options position. I think it's like it doesn't stick out enough to me to where he's like one of the top end options.
What are you doing if Miles Turner is out? Like if you look, Miles Turner's out one game this year.
All the Al Jefferson.
Yeah, Kevin Seraphin played a lot in that game, but Al Jefferson didn't play that much. Lavoie didn't play
how many
that much.
Minutes?
That's the question, yeah.
How many minutes would Al Jeff get?
Doesn't matter. His usage rate is obscene.
I know. That's what I'm saying. If he gets like more minutes, then yeah.
He has a 24% usage rate this season.
Yeah, it's incredible.
If he plays 17
but
minutes.
It's obviously not an ideal spot versus Steven Adams, but he's 3,700 on FanDuel. I mean, he has to be in the punt option. And we're talking about freaking Lavoie Allen at 3,500. Yeah, and I'll take Al Jeff. I'll take Al Jeff over Lavoie all day if Miles Turner is out.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I guess that just goes into position. I like more centers than I like power forwards. So
Al Jeff is 3,100 on DK too. So
I mean, if Miles is out, throw a decent amount of Al Jeff exposure in tournaments. I mean, if Al Jeff's out, I think it'll just make me feel a little bit better about going Lavoie and Cash. But I don't know. My lineup's got to be like perfect in Cash with Lavoie. Like I need to just have everybody I want and then Lavoie. If I can get a good lineup where like I can upgrade Lavoie to Porzingis, for example, then I'm gonna do it. And then in tournaments,
look, man, min price guys on FanDuel. I mean, that gets you a lot in general.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
you're probably gonna lock in Yogi Ferrell to at 56. That's a savings. You're probably
if you're going Hernan Gomez. That's what I'm saying. So and small forward. If you go like Matt Barnes at 38.
I mean, you can go true like stars and scrubs. You can definitely pay up for like LeBron. You can get John Wall.
You're still gonna have if you go Ferrell, Barnes, Hernan Gomez, and Lavoie, and then LeBron and Wall. I guess Brow, right?
Yeah.
So Ferrell.
I mean, that might be it. Yeah.
Ferrell, Barnes, Lavoie. You can lock in like Seth Curry to save, right?
Yeah.
Or Norm Powell.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's lock in one of those guys. You have 4 cheap guys. You can afford Wall, Booker, Cousins, Porzingis, You can make the round. Obviously, you can get LeBron too if you kind of take some of those guys down. So
Yeah.
it gets you a lot of
It's
guys.
pretty nice. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, you can load it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think especially on this slate, you have some guys that are like some high-end studs that are some really good spots.
These studs go for like 60. Like, you have
Yeah.
to get them in. It's crazy. It's these mid-range guys are just they don't have the ceiling and floor that these studs do. It's crazy. This whole year has just been crazy. Yeah,
for sure. So guys, we haven't talked, at all here. Dwight Howard, DeAndre Jordan, obviously not guys we're really looking at. I think Jonas Valanciunas, like the Toronto guys, Bebe as well. I think it gets pretty thin after the guys we've discussed. I mean, any other guys you want to shout out? Not so much.
No, I'm not too high on Dwight, obviously, in that spot. I don't think so. I mean, we talked about most of them. Like Steven Adams will circle back. I'd like him as a tournament option for sure in this spot.
Yeah. Okay. Justin, any other last thoughts?
No, that's about it.
Cool. All right. Well, we will end it there. Thank you guys for listening. And as always, good luck in this 11-game slate. Tomorrow will be small, so definitely get in tonight. It should be a good night of games, a lot of close ones as well. So good luck. We'll talk to you guys later this week.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. Good luck, guys.